Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Football Show. This is episode number 143 and the Euros are nearly here. I'm very excited, but I'm even more excited to talk to our guest tonight, among other things. But the show is available live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter as usual. Ace Podcast Nation, of course, you're home to many great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So please do give us a follow on social media, subscribe to that YouTube channel, click the bell for notifications. I cannot tell you how much that helps us. And also, if you prefer your podcast in audio format, should I say, you could just search Ace Podcast Nation at your favorite radio or podcast platform. And there's over 400 shows on all sorts of subjects. And of course, if you want to keep it purely football on social media, just follow at A.C.E Footy Show on every single social media platform. And you could streamline your effects. But just as we wait for the latecomers to join us on the various platforms, as I mentioned, a big thank you to Black Diamond Sports as ever. Black Diamond Sports, a global sports agency who represents stars from around the world. For more information, you can visit their social media pages and, of course, their website, the links to which are in the description below, as well as the closing credits at the end of the show. And, of course, the sponsor for today's show, as ever, is Darren Ralston and Bespoke Financial. And Darren is giving away a free will worth £140 with any new policy which is taken out. Please do check him out. Give him a call. Don't miss out on what is an absolutely incredible offer. Coming off the back of COVID, it's a good time just to check you've got your insurance and various financial services all up to date. And Darren will look after you, give you the best deals possible. He's looked after Andy with various policies over the years, including the critical illness, injury. Got to put my teeth in tonight. Gee whiz. Injury cover. They are truly top of the field and provide award-winning service. We're very proud to partner with such a top-class brand, and we thank them for sponsoring the show. And, of course, there'll be a video from them at the end or towards the end of the show as well. But with no further ado, let's pass over to some people who can actually speak. It's, first of all, the goal collector, the fox in the box, still the QPR dream killer, Davy Jones's favourite son, Ex Cardiff City and Middlesbrough striker, the speed demon, Andy Campbell. How goes it, my friend?
Good evening. I don't feel as under pressure now after your start. I feel
Jesus.
I can have a real bad show. I'll be all right. No, really excited. Got an amazing guest, a teammate, a roommate, socialised together. We've had a good laugh together on and off the field. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I want to start by saying, Rise Mum, Kerry, happy birthday. 21, I believe. So I hope you have had a lovely day. Obviously, lockdown's still with us, so hope you've had the best birthday you can in this situation. But yeah, there you go, right?
Indeed. And by the way, I'm not going to let you get away with it just because I had such a bad start. You saying Firth instead of birthday is definitely spreading. So when we I was going to say when we introduce Gary now, this could go all wrong. But
at least you said his name right.
Well, that's it. Dave Croft. Well, I'm very, very excited to welcome tonight's guest. He is Ex Cardiff City, Blackburn Rovers, Ipswich Town and Grimsby Town fullback. It is Mr. Gary Croft. I am very happy to welcome you to the show, Gary. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Nice to be here. Nice to see Andy again, and nice to meet you too.
No, great to have you on, Gaz. No, great to have you on, mate. You know what I mean? I know we spoke off air about careers and about the various people that we've had on previously. And I, for the viewers, it's so exhilarating. It's so exciting because no football career is the same. You know what I mean? Everyone goes different paths. Everyone plays at different levels. Everyone plays in different positions. Played a different amount of games, different amount of goals. So I'm just a super fan. Love talking about it, and really looking forward to digging deep. A little bit nervous about the tell me whys, but let's see where that goes.
Well, it's been a couple of weeks since we've done them as well, isn't it?
I know.
Because obviously we didn't do them with Mehmet Dalman last week.
No.
And we haven't done the championship show for a couple of weeks, so it's going to be interesting. But what we'd like to do, Gary, first is we do Magnificent 7, which is basically 7 quickfire questions for the viewers, just to get to know you and your tastes and whatnot. So, just answer first thing which comes to mind, but nice and easy anyway.
Okay.
So, 1 Okay, Gary Croft, the Magnificent Seven. Nice and easy to start. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Favorite TV show?
Murder ID or something like that. I'm watching. I can't talk too long, can I? Sorry. What's the one? Power.
No,
Good answer.
That's
Good
on my
answer.
list of things to watch. That is. So,
Yeah, we don't have many recent ones, do we? It's normally old school. Old school. And
Yeah.
done it for.
Very
Some
true.
It's so long to watch it. Nightmare. You know, you fall asleep during them, and you have to keep going back, don't you?
You got to go back. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they're the worst.
Yeah, I do that all the time. By the way, fall asleep watching stuff. But most hostile game you've ever played in?
Millwall in the old den. People won't even know what places like that were like back in the day, back in the 90s. Absolutely crazy. Racism, abuse beyond anything I've ever seen before. Bananas on the pitch, the works. That was scary. But a place that made me spine tingle was St James's Park. When I played there, when that place was full, you felt like they probably had about 14 men. When that crowd went for it, you're like, whoa, wow, we're up against it now. That was awesome.
Best manager you've ever played for?
Do you know what I would have to go technically with Roy Hodgson. I've got many good managers, and I don't mean no disrespect to none of them because they all had an influence, but he was magnificent in his delivery, how advanced he was for his time, and the way he played, the way he set things up was streets ahead of probably every manager I had, I think.
Oh, angriest teammate?
Was it Cav? Should we go with something like Cav when he got Graham Kavanagh? He was an angry man, wasn't he, at times when Willie Boland.
Willie's been up a few times, to be honest, and we had Willie on. We had Willie on last week and 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, no.
And I'm surprised he wasn't surprised that he had a lot of votes. And my biggest surprise is he didn't vote for himself. But he had, to be fair, I think he voted Gordon Strachan, so I didn't vote into Nick Barney.
That's a pretty good
point then.
Yeah,
we used to be mixed off the field, but we used.
Oh.
He was pretty angry fella. He was, yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty. Yeah, he was. But we've obviously had this conversation, and I think we've had this conversation off the pitch that he was a different animal when he walked past that white line. I know people say that, people change into something, but he was such a winner, such a born winner, such competitiveness inside him, and that probably spilled into socialising as well. That if you ever had a pool competition or you had a competition who could drink the pint quickest, Willie always wanted to win. You know what I mean? And that's not a bad thing, by the way. It's such a You know what I mean? Si's nodding his head because obviously Si's good friends with Willie. I met Willie in Cardiff. There's obviously a story behind that, but it was such a winning mentality, and it's an amazing trait to have because I don't think you see that. I don't think you see that now in many players. 2021, you know what I mean? You see players who are technically very good, but you know what I mean, you don't have that winning mentality that some players had back in the day.
Yeah. It was aggressive. He wanted it, and he valued his career, and everything about his approach and everything was just so right, And off the field, he was a character and he knew how to enjoy himself. I mean, I think the sport nowadays is so serious, and rightly so. There's a lot at stake, but I liked my era. In all fairness, I liked what we had. We had a lot more characters, a lot more leaders, a lot more people who were allowed to be personalities than they are nowadays. Now they're schooled from so young that it's driven and beaten out of them, and it's just about being a good player, being technically good and looking good on the ball and keeping possession rather than winning. A lot of the time, I know this uncompetitive football that they play when they're younger can be quite healthy, but sometimes some people don't lose that, and there's not enough passion about winning. And I think you see that in a lot of games, especially towards the end of games. When I see teams popping it around at the back when there's about 3 minutes to go, and I'm thinking that needs to go forward. And I don't know, some of that passion and drive for me has been lost a little bit by the modern way.
I totally agree.
A lot of the characters at Cardiff at the time were gritty characters. When you think about, I'm referring back to Cardiff because that was our time together. But there was good characters and winners and good footballers all together. And a lot of the successful teams I've been involved with, that's been the same combination for a successful team every single time. The same
But
when I
then
was at Ipswich.
we spoke earlier on before we came on about groups. But you just said there everyone was individual. Everyone brought the little piece to the table, and it worked. It was like a cog, wasn't it? You know what I mean? Everything worked, and then things were successful. And I think that happens. You know what I mean? I was crying out watching the Man City Chelsea Cup final, and they're getting beat 1-0 with 3 or 4 minutes to go. And listen, I'm not a big advocate of just launching the ball in the box, but sometimes it's got to be done. And the times that you get a scruffy goal, the times that you get a little bit of luck, are those times when you just do something out of the ordinary. And that might have caused more problems than it does. You know what I mean? People on about now coaching badges and people not having a plan B, plan C. But you know what I mean? When we had managers like Lenny Lawrence, when we had coaches like Butts at Cardiff and obviously Corky, who I knew, and Dave Jones who came in, they had loads of different plans and loads of different ways of playing football. Yes, it might not have been the prettiest what people play now, play out from the back, but it was very effective and it worked for those groups of players.
The best kind of football is winning football for me, whichever way you do it. I see a lot of teams trying to play this nice, pretty way, but if it doesn't suit the players you've got, you need to change your system. I watched Grimsby painfully this season try and play out from the back for about 25 games, played themselves into a relegation position they couldn't get out of.
Well, Wales are doing the same at the moment with a false 9, which is not working. Yeah. They nearly messed up qualification playing a false 9, and they only really came together when they played Kiefer Moore up front, and now they've reverted in the friendlies back to a false 9, and it's not working again. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, if you haven't got the players for it, you can't play it. It was painful to watch this season, and I see it coming for Grimsby. And I've done the radio commentary all through the year, and I've commented. I just couldn't believe they continued to play out from the back. They were getting caught out. They continued to play it, and it was a nightmare. You have to play. You have to look at all your best players. Who keeps performing for you? Play them, and then infill around them, and play them in their best position. Find combinations. Where you're creating chances, because if it's not, you're not creating chances, you're not going to score goals, and you can't play it around at the back if you haven't got players comfortable on the ball. Grimsby did that this year. It was awful to watch. And
where does that stem from, though, guys? Where does that kind of philosophy stem from? Is that from coaching badges, do you believe? Because
I don't get it. I think there was some influence, but Ian Holloway came to do it. Now, if you remember his time at Blackpool when he brought him through the leagues, it was very attacking football. The ball was forward early. It was like he was doing a pre-season through the season, and it was almost like, it's all right, results won't matter, we'll come good. And I thought, this isn't right, something's not happening here. And he wasn't brought up like that, but strangely, all of a sudden, when his job came under threat, he started launching it. Literally, it was from black to white. They just got the ball out for the back, the keeper started launching it to save his job. And as a player, how confusing is that?
Yeah. I was just about to say, as a player, you wouldn't like it, would you? You've had a way of playing. Your players have a philosophy of trying to play. You know what I mean? You're working on it all week, and then to just change it with the flick of a switch must be so difficult for an individual and a group of players and younger players as well.
Yeah, and it's not just that. The other thing that I'm not a huge fan of is squad rotation. You know, I don't mind it because players need resting, but the team has changed week in, week out. The formation was changed week in, week out, and for me as a player, if I was playing well one week and then dropped the next, or dropped in midweek, I'd be fuming. And I don't think you get any consistency to the way you play, who you're playing with, the formation you're playing. You need to have a clear structure. You need to have a best way of playing. It's not having a plan B and a plan C, but you need a best way of playing. And,
I totally agree.
Otherwise, as a player, you're thinking, what are we doing? What is our method? And when I talk about great coaches, Roy Hodgson had lots of different ways to play, but he had a favourite way of playing, and you knew it inside out. You knew what your options were, 1, 2, 3, and 4 every time you received the ball. And that's why it was good coaching, very good, very clear.
Absolutely. So there's still 2 questions left on the Magnificent 7. So the final 2 questions, Grimsby or Cardiff?
Them Googlies. Be honest.
I love Grimsby, but do you know what? The most upsetting thing about Grimsby is the fact that when I played there, we were championship. That was success on its own. But no one really appreciated it at the time, especially when you look at where they are now. We were champions the whole time I was there, and we were competing. We were I've been up at the top of the league with Grimsby in the Championship, but we never won. When I was there, we never did anything else other than that, apart from some good cup runs. But obviously, the day at Cardiff is one of the most memorable things, thanks to Andrew Campbell. Do you know what I mean? We had such a magnificent time there. I had 2 playoffs with Cardiff, a failed one and then a successful one. And the times there, it was good footballers, good off the field times, and a successful team. For me, it ticked everything that I had. But obviously Grimsby, I started here, so that's in my heart. But probably the success and the win at Cardiff City Stadium is one of my top memories. So I'll have to go with Cardiff probably.
Here we go. It's the right answer. And then finally, my favourite question, and it doesn't have to be football related, but Gary Croft, who is the greatest Englishman who's ever lived? In your opinion?
Question.
Well, Winston Churchill, has he got to be there, Auntie? Because of
one day, go on.
War, he's given us freedom, hasn't he? You can't, if you lead something like that, no matter what his faults were. If you lead an army, if you lead a country, what else? Who else can beat that? Do you know what I mean? Through war, without his steadfastness, and the things the speeches he delivered, the way he gathered us all together, that momentum and everything like that. No one could beat that with winning football games or anything like that. Yeah, it's got to be the truly most momentous thing in recent times.
And I think said about freedom, and freedom's the biggest thing what we've missed this last year. And I think someone who gave us something so special years and years and years ago, a lifetime ago. That's what we want back now. And I think it's so precious, and it just shows what kind of a responsibility he took on his shoulders to give the whole of England. That it was such a great thing to do. Such a great.
Was that a popular answer?
We've had it a couple of times. I said it, didn't I? I said it once. I've said it.
Loads of people have said it. One day, when we get to 250 episodes or something, or when we get 1 million views overall, I'll go back and I'm going to total up all the answers of the greatest person who's ever lived and the most angriest teammate, and see, because there's a few players now and a few people who've had more than one vote. So I'd be interested.
Can I throw Jim Magilton into that, by the way?
Yes, you can. Someone else said Jim
oh my
Magilton
God.
as well.
I'll tell you, one of the funniest men in football, but my God. If
Angry.
he was angry at you, number one, on or off the pitch, he would have you up against a wall as well. He wasn't scared of no one.
He's I'm getting him on the show. I spoke to him a couple of months ago, and it's just tying him down. And then we're doing the Euros, so we're having a bit of this is our last show before we have the month of the Euros. So I told him I'll pick it back up, because obviously he's a keen football watcher as well. So but yeah, I've heard he's it must be that midfield position where they just get an angry head on them and just shout at everybody.
The Irish, isn't it? It's the Irish.
It is, yeah. Is he Belfast? Is he Belfast way? Northern Ireland, isn't he?
I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, Northern Ireland, I believe.
But, he's funny man.
I've heard really good things.
Bag of confidence or two, that way. You won't get the mic off him, mate, if he starts.
So, what we're going to do next, Gary, is tell me why, where I ask you and Andy a question or give you a subject, and you've got 60 seconds to discuss it. Before we do that, I'm just going to very quickly we've had a couple of super chats. Gaz Cubbins sent, he said both. He said, finale of my story yesterday was fire, by the way, Series 3. There will be a Series 3, not till after the Euros. Thank you for your kind comments. Eddie Webber was absolutely sensational, by the way.
Yeah, he was.
Not just a phenomenal actor, because he is a superb actor, but really just a genuinely nice guy. I've been speaking to him so much over the last couple of days. He's still in contact with me. And just a very quick story. It's really weird yesterday. I woke up yesterday morning, half asleep, went into my Twitter, and I had a message from Craig Fairbrass just saying about the show and saying about how good actor Eddie is. And I was like, had to sort of second glance it because it was unexpected, but it was kind of cool. And Gaz also says, so I'll throw this one to you two as the experts. He says Lingard and Ward-Prowse not being taken to the Euros is a disgrace. Picking White for Trent Alexander-Arnold is also mind-boggling. How many defenders do you need? Discuss.
Well, I'm interested. I'm interested, obviously, with Gaz being a defender himself and a very good one at that. That do we need that much cover? I know he's on about. I believe he's taken his choice today with the position which Harry Maguire's in. That's what I believe he's doing. I think he's on the fence that he's going to be fully fit for the first game. The second game, or maybe it's the third game. Yes, he started light training on his own, but he's a million miles away from being a competitive game in a European Championship. So I think he's taken that choice over that. Basically, I think he's overcovering with fullbacks who can play as a 3 in a centre half. I would have loved Jesse Lingard in the squad. I'll be honest. I think he's had a phenomenal season.
He is the form player in the whole squad, isn't he?
He is. I feel sorry for him because the whole thing I haven't got this week is obviously the 2 friendlies that Jesse Lingard started against Austria. He's just been told the day before he's not in the squad, but he gets to play the next game. We had 3 players yesterday who were told they're not playing, but they all started. And then you've got the Ollie Watkins. Yes, it's great experience for them being around the camp. Yes, it's great experience for them to get caps. But they must be absolutely devastated inside because they don't want to pick injuries up. They're still on standby apparently, so they can't really go and get drunk every night or go on holiday. They're still stuck in a position because I don't know when the cutoff is if they get called up. I don't know if they can get called up during the tournament or what.
It's just the day before, isn't it?
Is it the day before? Yeah. So obviously, they're still frozen until probably Saturday. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Saturday morning or Friday night. It's going to be so frustrating for them as players. But I think once the tournament starts, they can relax and move on. But guys, what's your take on another defender? Is it needed?
I don't think it is needed. No, and to be honest, I watched him, and I think sometimes he just takes that little bit extra too long on the ball for me. Yeah. Ben White as well, because he hasn't played at this level, even against Romania. I just thought against sharper players, you're going to get done a little bit if you take chances like that. Just waiting to see what they're going to do before you make the pass. I think he's got pace and I think he's a good player coming through. But for him to just step up into that level straight away is going to be tricky for him. I think we've got enough cover. I don't think the back fours look particularly brilliant or however he's going to play it as a 3. It doesn't fill me with confidence. When I looked and saw that we were favourites alongside France to win it, not for me, and I'm one of the biggest fans. I love England and I love supporting England, and I'm like any other fan when it comes to England.
My
favourite out of the 2.
Andy, go on, Gary.
I was going to say my favourite out of the 2. I know Lingard's had a good spell, but I think he had that good spell immediately after he sort of went on loan, didn't he? That's where his best period was. I think he's faded away a bit towards the end of the season. He hasn't really done anything in the friendlies for me either. But Ward-Prowse, what you've got there is a man who can deliver set pieces. I think his set piece is like phenomenal. And
that's what I was going to ask you both, Gary. Is Trent Alexander-Arnold takes a lot of the set pieces in and around the box, the corners and stuff. And I just felt because they've got so much cover at fullback and centre back and defensive-minded players, I felt like it was a good opportunity to bring in, because Trent Alexander-Arnold is not in there for his defensive work. He's in there for going forward. He's in there for his set pieces. And I felt like James Ward-Prowse was the obvious replacement to me because his set pieces, they're better than anyone else's in the squad. So I kind of wanted to throw that to you both. I don't think he will play Trippier. That's the thing.
Well, I think he'll have to now, though, won't he? Because we haven't got anybody who would probably, on a regular basis, take set pieces like he does. You know what I mean? I've seen.
But can you pick players just on set piece ability? Because is Trippier your first choice right back in that squad?
No, he'll probably play left back. I think he'll probably play left.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably play
left.
What,
ahead of Luke Shaw?
I thought Shaw was all right. I like Shaw going forward, not so much defensively, but I'd go Kyle Walker if we have got a centre half fit. If we do, if we don't have the regular centre halves playing, then Kyle Walker for me of the season he's had. He's so quick, he can get us out of trouble. His positional sense isn't always brilliant, but his pace can get you out of trouble, can get us forward.
Yeah,
he's the right back for me.
I think Kyle Walker and Luke Shaw would got to be the fullbacks because.
Listen, I don't think you
Trippier
can
is
second guess.
unpredictable.
You can't second guess this manager. You know what I mean? I thought that Gareth was quite predictable in some of the decisions that he's done before. I think he's been quite. You can read him a little bit with the squad that he's picked. No one can second guess him now. His selection for next Saturday, I don't think you'll be able to second guess him. I look at the games in the friendlies. Are they a waste of time? What's the point of having them? Is he just been looking at them for up and coming players? Is he looking at them for him to keep players match fit? He knows his team. He knew his team 2 weeks ago what he's going to play against Croatia. Apart from Harry Maguire and now Trent. You know what I mean? He's just going to fill holes in. He knows that the players were going to start. He knows his bench. He knows his tactics. He knows everything what he's going to do. Especially for the 3 games for me. He knows exactly what he needs to do. And he's under so much pressure, by the way, to fulfill all the support. As you guys spoke there about being an England fan and wanting England to do well. I'm a super England fan. You know what I mean? I'm gutted when I cry when they got beaten penalties. It still hurts me getting beat by Germany in 1990. You know what I mean? It boils me getting beat by Argentina. I'm a huge England fan. I want them to do well. I'm gutted when they don't win. I want us to win something in my lifetime. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not. You know what I mean? I'm just hopeful it does. You know, I'd love them to get to the final. No, I'm not.
I think it's a tricky tournament overall, though.
I don't think we're a full team.
Yeah, but I think
it's a tricky tournament.
I see the draw as well, and I see we've got the group of death. We play France, Germany, or Portugal. So we're gonna get one of them, and I just think yes, you've got to beat teams along the way, but not in the first game after qualifying. You know, it's going to be so difficult, and if you get through that, you've obviously got a chance. But then your games come even harder. You might pick an injury up. You've got COVID on top of it. If we get, you know what I mean? It's just England all over that they get stung by COVID, and 2 or 3 of the best players don't get allowed to play for 7 days. It's just, you know, I just hope that we can have a full tournament where all the best players can turn up to the party. England, Wales, Scotland, Germany, Portugal, Italy, France, everybody, and we can have the best tournament we can have, because do you know what, this should have been a cracker last year, but hopefully it will be this year.
The thing is, I watched the last World Cup, and obviously I don't think England played particularly well through the groups at all. No. I think they had one good game in the whole tournament against Sweden, and even then they weren't outstanding. I know they got 6th, didn't they, against Panama, and and they had lots of penalties, but for me it was very, very unconvincing. Did we play right back at
conservative, wasn't it?
Trippier play left back.
Yeah. Trippier did play, didn't he? Because he scored that free kick in the.
He got the free kick against Croatia. Yeah, but we had Harry Kane taking set pieces. You know what I mean? The whole thing was wrong. You know that these are my concerns. You know what I mean? You're filling square pegs in round holes. You know what I mean? And it's just, it doesn't work. You know, for me, Gareth's got his head screwed on, and hopefully he can bring something back to the country. You know, a positivity. And I mean, semi-final, final, whatever. Hopefully.
Yeah.
So, just before we do the Tell Me Why, I just want to touch on a couple of things. First and foremost, my outside tip to win a group is Scotland. I think if they beat Czech Republic, because everybody
is trying to win.
Everyone's written off Scotland. Everyone's written off Scotland against England. England are going to walk it, but that game is like no other. It's not like your normal Euros game, and England aren't firing on all cylinders. And like people seem to be forgetting that Scotland have got quite a lot of Premier League footballers in their squad. They've got good footballers. Yes, they're not. They haven't got the depth of other teams. They haven't got the quality of what England have got to select from. But on that day in 90 minutes, particularly if they win their first game, I really fancy them to go and get a point against England, and then it can go. You got 4 points from 2 games. They could easily win the group from that position. So that's my outside little tip. But I wanted to get your opinions, guys. Matthew Angel there says, what did you make of Roy Keane's comments about Jordan Henderson being involved in the friendly? So if you're not aware, I can quickly sort of give you the gist of it. He basically said he should not be playing. He's clearly not fit. Is he there to play card tricks? He is in the squad, from what I can gather. He's still in the Euro squad, isn't he? Yeah. But he's not fit. Roy Keane basically gave him a bit of a slaughtering.
I think it's obvious he's not fit. I think it's obvious Jordan didn't help himself yesterday at all with his penalty. You know what I mean? Why he's taking it and why he's putting himself under unnecessary pressure in a game where he just needs to get through. He needs to get through a game of football with match fitness, doing extra running, getting through a game unscathed, which he did. He didn't need to get. He didn't need to do something like that and put himself under unnecessary pressure, which then brings a criticism. You know what I mean? Roy's criticism's harsh at the best of times. You know what I mean? He's very good to listen to. He's very good watch on Sky, on ITV. But Jordan Henderson is, on paper, and when he's fit, he's one of England's best midfielders. You know what I mean? He can marshal the defensive line. He can sit in front of the back four. He can spray balls around. He can win a game on his own. You know what I mean? By the job that he does. Yes, he's not fit. Will he be given the job behind Declan Rice to come in and kill a game off and sit and protect? If he is, then it's a masterstroke by the manager. You know what I mean? And I do understand his point. You know what I mean? Because other players he's a Jesse Lingard fan. He's a Ward-Prowse fan. He wants them both in the squad. I fully get that. But for me, I'm pleased he's in it because he's a winner. He knows how to win. He's won Premier Leagues. He's won Champions Leagues. There's not that many players in that squad who've got those credentials who can win big games in big tournaments, and he's done that.
Yeah, I think it maybe start with Rice, but I think Henderson's on his heels. I think he's the Southgate's favourite to play, and I think if he can get him some time in that first game, England can get a lead and they can get him on. He'll get Henderson on. He'll get his match fitness back as quick as possible because he's the main man in there for me. He's got the record and he's got the games under his belt that says he's the best man for that role. And like Andy said there, I don't think he's fit yet. I don't think he's ready to step in, but I think as soon as you could, you'd get him in there and you'd get him involved and you'd get him leading that team because I'd have him more than the lad from Leeds without a doubt.
Listen,
Gareth, experience for him, but he's not good enough yet.
Gareth will have his plan. If England win the first two games, Jordan Henderson plays a full 90 minutes in the third game against Czech Republic, and then it's up to him then to recover and force his way into the tournament because that could be, if England can get 6 points out of 6 in the first two games, they'll have a pivotal chance to play and rest players and give players an opportunity to progress through for the real tough game, which is the next game. And for me, the players are good enough to do it. Jordan will be good enough to do it. He needs games, but he's running out of days. But I understand Roy's point. I just think it's badly timed because if he was English, would he be saying it? If it was an Irish player, would he be saying it about his? I think it's really bad timing in terms of the tournament's just around the corner. Gareth's picked his squad. For me, you respect the manager's decision and just support every single player in that camp because the players need the support.
Irish,
you know what I mean? Yeah, and I get that. And I get he's a neutral pundit. You know what I mean? Ireland haven't had the best of times over the last year or two. You know what I mean? But for me, every English fan should back every single player what the manager's picked. If you don't agree with the decision, that's fine. I don't, but I'm still going to back him. I'm still going to back every single player, and I hope every single one of them does well because there'll be no prouder man to see England get to the quarter, semi-final, whatever that may be. Hopefully it is. If it's not, then you take on the chin.
I mean, back to the Scotland point where you said about Scotland doing well. The thing is about Scotland is they have got a limited amount of players, but them players tend to play the majority of their time together in them games for Scotland, and they form better links, better understanding with each other, and they pull together because they're passionate and they believe in it. You know, if nothing else, the Scots are very passionate. You get them similar sort of 11 players playing most weeks for Scotland. They can't rotate as much as what England can, and I just think sometimes it can form a stronger bond. We've seen Wales, what they did in the last World Cup, and you know I think it can work for Scotland in the Euros as well. And they've got better players this time. They look like a threat. Robertson down that left now, he's really maturing into an absolute sensational fullback now. He's creating stuff going forward, and he's a defender as well. And they've got other players. McTominay in midfield now playing for second in the Premier League. You know they've got good players and they're getting used to playing with each other. So they could be a surprise package to go through. I'm not sure if they'll win the group, but
I hope everyone does well, though. You know, I'm an England fan, but I want Wales to get as far as they can. I want Scotland to qualify. I think for British football, for the show that we're doing, I so hope that every British side does well and gets as far as they can. I just can't see Scotland qualifying. I'll be honest, out of the group. I think Croatia is still strong. I think it all
depends on the first game, mate. For them.
It does, yeah. But they're playing Czech Republic. They're the unknowns for me. You know what I mean? Czech Republic, and they've got a good side. England have got a good side. Scotland have got a decent side. They've got some good players. If they're like Gaz just said there, you know what I mean? You've got your Robertson, you've got your Tierney. You know what I mean? There's your left hand side. You know what I mean? You've got Arsenal, you've got Liverpool, you've got Man United midfielders. You know what I mean? That's going back in the day when Ali McCoist and Colin Hendry and all those kind of fellas were playing. You know what I mean? They're back to that level now. So they've got an opportunity to progress. Do well, do the country proud, but for me, if England, as long as England qualify, I don't really care.
Right, we'll circle back to the Euros, no doubt, because the banter back and forth in the chat has already begun, which is it's going to be a funny 4 weeks or so. But obviously Wales are going to win it, so it doesn't really matter.
No, Germany have won, haven't they?
No, mate, well, that's right, yeah, because I want that signed memorabilia. No, in fairness, I think France will win it because France have got the best squad and they play as a team. And I think overall, that's what it'll come down to if they can turn up on the day. Right, we're moving on. We're going to go with Tell Me Why. You both got 60 seconds to discuss the questions, which I'm going to put to you in just a second. So let's... Okay, Gary, as the guest, mate, do you want to go first or second?
I'll go second. I'll let Andy go for it.
Second.
Brutal.
So, Andy, really, really easy subject to discuss in 60 seconds. Apparently, Eddie Howe turned down the Spurs job, as me and you discussed privately a couple of weeks ago now. About a couple of weeks ago. Eddie Howe turned down the Spurs job. Then you had the Conte debacle where he had kind of agreed everything. They were bringing in a general manager ahead of him. And then it all of a sudden was all called off because of the transfer budget. I want you to talk to me mainly about Eddie Howe, but also the Spurs job overall and what they're looking to do. But your 60 seconds start now.
Well, quite broad. I'll start with Eddie Howe. So Eddie Howe, for me, is one of the best young coaches in England that we've got. I'd love to see him back in football. I think his freshness, his ideas, the way that he plays is very exciting. I have heard that he's trying to bring in his own staff with him wherever he goes. That's why the Celtic thing didn't happen. Obviously, turned down other jobs. I think sooner or later he's got to take an opportunity because there's not that many clubs who are looking for a manager. The Spurs debacle for me is Daniel Levy. They've got the new stadium, which has brought a lot of debt, which brings a limited transfer budget. And managers are unsure about going there, about having lack of money to spend. Spurs are a big club, but they need to spend money. You know what I mean? They've got an aging squad. They need some fresh players. They struggled in Europe. They struggled in the Premier League. They're miles away in terms of winning anything. So for me, they need to start splashing the cash, and the only person who's going to do that is the chairman, Daniel Levy.
Yeah, 5 seconds left. 5 seconds left. You had that. Yeah, not a bad effort at all.
Take that.
So. Same question to you, really, Gaz, and your 60 seconds start now. Yeah,
well, Eddie Howe, for me, has been absolutely unbelievable at Bournemouth. You know, I think he's not given enough credit for just what he's done there. This season, I feel he'll probably feel like he wasn't backed enough when he went with them the season before when he went down. You know, I don't think he was backed enough. I think he needed some budget as well to survive there. But he's got to be in a job soon, hasn't he? You know, he's absolutely phenomenal. He's obviously being offered some positions, but he wants to bring in his own staff. And you know, if he knows what makes his way of working succeed, then he's going to need his staff. And if that's why he's not been given positions, then they need to look at that. Daniel Levy. Must be such a difficult man to work with. You know, every single manager that's been in there has just got the shadow of him hanging over them, and you know, they just can't win, can they? They can't get it right at Spurs, and they're struggling with their budget. Like Andy said there, they've got no money for any new signings, or certainly significant signings that are going to turn them into a force.
That's 60 seconds. No, well done. That was very good.
Good. It's hardly gone twice. It's hardly gone twice, isn't it? Because you've already you don't want to try and duplicate the answers.
You've covered me, haven't you?
I think my thing with the Eddie Howe thing quickly is, like, for me, if he's turning down the Spurs job, like, what job is he expecting to get? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but basically, like, he's not going to jump from the Bournemouth job to Liverpool or Man United or Chelsea. So, like, sort of Tottenham, Arsenal is kind of like the ceiling for him at the moment, or, you know, a Celtic or a Rangers if those jobs were to come around. So it is. I get what you said about his backroom staff. It's an interesting one to me because for me, two very big jobs, mate. That he's
Celtic for me was a no-brainer. Celtic for me had to happen. You know, yes. You look at previous managers, you know what I mean? Look at Brendan Rodgers, you know what I mean? The success Brendan had there, and then he got himself a established job with a top Premier League club and had a philosophy, a way of playing. You know what I mean? For me, I think he was stupid not to take it. You know what I mean? Even if he'd met halfway and said, I can take 2 members of staff instead of 4 or 5, you know what I mean? You've got to be selfish sometimes and look after number one. And if he was going there on his own, I'd say, yeah, that's not for me. But I'm sure that they would have let him take an assistant manager or a coach or or somebody in with him he was able to trust. It's no one he takes a one-man band anymore. There's no way in the world this Australian fella is going in there on his own. No way.
No, very true, mate. Just to quickly say as well, Richie Thomas has made his return after a long stint away from the group chat. And welcome back to Richie. And he says, "Hey guys, quick question for Andy: will England be shopping at Iceland again this year's Euros?" I don't know what he means by that. But
neither do I. I tell you what, a lot of people are putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on your own country, by the way. So you know what I mean. Sometimes
there's no pressure on Wales, mate.
Well, you want as good as your last
Not
tournament, aren't you? You want as good as your last tournament, so the expectation is the same again. So let's see.
There's never the same expectation on Wales with the squad they've got now compared to what they had then. Not at all, mate.
Don't be saying this. You've got
this full of kids, mate. Apart from Bale and Ramsey,
you've got Juventus player, Real Madrid player, Man United player.
Yeah. They won't even play for those clubs by the end of the summer, so it doesn't really matter. So they're going to be playing for Cardiff.
Deflection.
Yes, indeed.
I think they're a good tournament in Wales. I do. I think they'll come good. I do, honestly. I think they've got a good spirit and kind of like these. Sometimes we play so rigidly as England. We've got such a fear about us that we can be so restricting on the players and the pressure that's on England. And I think when nothing's expected from you, when you are a bunch of kids, sometimes tournament football just works for you. You go.
I think the problem we've got, Gaz. I think the problem we've got is obviously the manager's situation. Obviously, Page is a teammate of ours, good friend of ours, but
yeah.
I hope he does well for him. But I just think that there's the excuse straight away. Not from him. I think for the country, for the nation, for the players, because it's been a bit of a show which didn't need to happen.
But
you know what I mean?
I don't think they need an excuse one day because nothing's expected of them. They don't have to go to Europe and be a top team. They don't have to make an excuse why they're not a big team because they're a small country. No disrespect to Wales. Obviously, I love Wales, but they're a small country and they're not expected to win. They can go there and just go for it. Just go for it.
If we get through the group stage, I'm happy. To be honest, if we get through to the knockout stage, I'm happy. That's a good tournament. Because
anything after the group stage is like anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
I do think if they can, like you said, if they can get through that, not just to be a success, anything can happen then for any team. Look at Denmark when they won it and things like that. Crazy stuff happens. Greece.
You got Greece,
so it's frightening what can happen. So
if Ramsey wasn't suspended,
that's why we love it.
I just hope we abandon the false nine formation. I got to say, I'm not a fan. We haven't got the players for that. But anyway, the second subject is it looks as if Liverpool midfielder Wijnaldum is set to join Paris Saint-Germain on a free transfer. Please discuss this. Andy Campbell, 60 seconds, go.
I was very surprised. I think he'd had a bit of he'd had an offer from Italy as well after a few Juventus, and he turned him down to go to France. Financially, very good move. Football wise, probably not. Listen, they'll win the league potentially next year. Pochettino is going to stay. He'll do a good job. He'll get the title back, so he'll win a title next year. He'll potentially be in the quarterfinals, semi-finals of the Champions League. He's had a great career. He's going to be playing in the Euros. He's a very talented footballer. I just find it a strange decision in terms of you leave Liverpool, and I see it as a step down in terms of playing week in, week out. You know what I mean? Every game in the Premier League was a challenge. Every game was a big game. And to play for Paris Saint-Germain, yes, you're playing for one of the best clubs in the world, one of the richest clubs in the world, but will it be challenging for him physically against some lesser teams week in, week out? Will he be challenged enough? Whereas in Italy, you know what I mean, you've probably got the top 9 at the minute who would challenge you further, in my opinion.
Indeed, you got the 3 seconds. I'll let you off.
Is he turned down Barcelona as well? Then
turned down Barcelona, Juventus. Apparently, he wanted more money, is what I've read, and Gavin just said the same there.
I'm surprised he turned Barca down with Koeman being the manager though, because obviously the Holland route. I'm surprised there.
Yeah, but I guess he's in his mind he's worth X amount, and he's not budging. I respect that. I do. I really do. I think if someone believes they're worth whatever it may be, then they shouldn't budge from that. That's what you got to believe in what you're worth. But anyway, Gary, your 60 seconds start now. Same question.
Yeah, well, for me, it's a payday. It's probably agent led. At the end of the day, you're saying about standing up for what you're worth, but when you're earning that much money, I don't think it's going to make an awful lot of difference to him where he goes, to be honest. You've got to go and challenge yourself. There's only 3 leagues in Europe, isn't there? Let's face it. You've got Spain, 4, Spain, Germany, Italy and England. And anything other than that's just you're kicking your boots around at the pitch for at least probably 25, 30 of them games without being challenged. Wijnaldum should have stayed if he could have stayed at Liverpool. And obviously the opportunity to go to Barcelona, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? You know, how on earth you don't take the opportunity, I don't know. Paris Saint-Germain is either lifestyle, he's taking he's having a bit of a rest season or two, and he's going to get silverware. You know, there's no doubt about it. He can show his trophy cabinet off, but I don't think when he looks back at it, he's going to enjoy that as much as he would have done doing it in Spain or one of the other big leagues of Europe, because it's not going to be challenging to him, there's no doubt.
No, you say about trophy though. You ask Pochettino, he probably came in expecting to win a trophy this season and didn't go to plan. So it's never guaranteed, is it? Like you'd expect them to. And however, Andy, stop the clocks, mate, because Rob Boyle has sent in an interesting proposition for you. He says, Andy, I'll bet you £50 for charity that Wales will go further than England at the Euros.
Okay.
What a challenge. You're going to accept that? Oh, there you go. Watch.
Of course.
Anything for charity, mate, isn't it? That's what we're all about, is charity. But anyway, yeah. It's one of those, and like the French league is like similar to the Scottish league in that it's two teams, and ironically, one of the teams outside those two teams won the league this year. But on the whole, it's a two-team.
But Gaz hit the nail on the head, though, didn't he? You know what I mean? That players are that well looked after, well paid. That doesn't need that extra payday. You know what I mean? And let's be honest, he's not that old, so he signed a 3-year deal. In 3 years' time, he's going to have. I'll find out for you now. He's going to have another move. Will he go to the States? Will he? You know what I mean? Will he do? Will he do something else? It's.
I think he might come back to a good club at the end of the day. You know, he might come back to a big club. He perhaps wants to get some more silverware under his belt. Do it in a couple of leagues. You're almost go in there and guaranteeing it, aren't you?
30 years old.
You could argue it's his last big contract, I suppose, at 30. I don't know though. Do you know what? One thing I would say is when you're earning 150 grand a week and you get a big signing on fee and bonuses and sponsorships, does an extra 50 grand a week really make that much difference? I don't know.
Well, I mean, on the face of it,
to me, it doesn't.
When you say the number, it does, but not when it's in relative to his actual.
There's only so much money you can spend, I think.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be safe and well supported for the rest of his life, and probably everyone in his surrounding family. So you go for your career, And I'm surprised his decision. Really surprised. I thought it was fabulous.
How many chances do you get to go and play for Barcelona in a lifetime? How many times that door doesn't open very often? You know what I mean? It's open because of a Dutch legend. If he's opened that door and he's turned it down, I'm so surprised. They've just signed Aguero. Listen, that for me would have been a dream, and you know what I mean? Gaz said it. The 4 leagues, that league next year potentially could be even stronger with the managers who are coming in. You know what I mean? You got Ancelotti going into Real Madrid, so the league again. Atletico won the league last year, so they'll be competitive again. It's going to be such a competitive division again.
With a shout as well, was it? Seville, there was a fourth place team who nearly got involved, didn't they? With about 5 or 6 games to go to win the league, and they fell away. So it's getting stronger over there. There's no doubt about it.
But it's only driven by his individualities and the way he looks at it. If he's looking at it in trophies and he wants to win some more trophies, then he's probably guaranteed. He's probably going to look at in 3 years that he should win a minimum of 3-4 trophies with cups, leagues, etc. So you know, he could win 6 to 8 trophies in the next 3 years easily. So you know, what I mean, if you look at it like that, it's a good decision.
Took a look at Liverpool and thought maybe they're falling away. With what happened this year, they had a strong finish, but. Probably thinking, am I going to win anything here? It's going to be tough. Maybe knows the noises certain other players are making in that dressing room to think that they might not be there that long, or he doesn't like the look of who they're talking about bringing in, or he's heard that he might be on the way out and he could be sitting on the bench. So there's reasons for him, obviously, to leave. But his choice is, it's a puzzling one, I think. He's won quite a lot of trophies. He's no doubt going to win something at Barcelona as well, I would have thought.
Yeah.
100%. So, Gary, we're going to just throw to some questions from the live chat for a bit. Cade Childs asked, he said he loves the shirts in the background, Gary. What's the best shirt you've swapped with a player?
Do you know what? A lot of I've got a lot of regrets about with not swapping shirts. It wasn't a big thing to do when I was kind of like playing. You didn't do a lot because nowadays it's seen as something, you know, like you just do. It's everyone says I want your shirt. For me, and the way we was brought up, I don't know if Andy agrees with this, but I don't want to swap shirt, like ask someone for their shirt, like I'm thinking they're super famous. You know, it was a bit like I didn't want to do that at the time. I wasn't thinking about having someone opposition player's shirt on my wall. I'd be like, your shirt. If you want mine, you can have mine. No one ever did, but you know.
But as you say, that got drummed out of us at Middlesbrough. So Brian Robson told us that we weren't allowed to swap shirts, and he gave that exact reason. You know what I mean? If they ask for yours, that's different. But you're not swapping with Roy Keane. You're not swapping with Andy Cole, Dwight York, Patrick Vieira, Bergkamp, Anelka.
Because some of the conversations before the games was about whose shirt you might be getting. You know, and then you're talking in awe of players. So as it happens, I didn't swap with a lot of people. You know, probably the only person who's any real fame that I've got was Shay Gibbons, but that was just because I got off him as a mate of mine. I used to live with Shay back in the day at Blackburn, and but I didn't swap hardly anyone's shirts at all. I just and I wanted to. It was in my mind.
But I find it difficult though, Crofty, mate, because let's say, for example, I'll pick one of the best wingers that I came across. So let's say David Gillen has played against Gary Croft. That Gary Croft tackles David Gillen all the time, or David Gillen takes past Gary Croft every time, and one of them's had a good game, one of them doesn't have a very good game. You're not going to want to swap a shirt with the person who's just had you in his pocket. So I think it's a real uncomfortable conversation, because why would I want to swap a shirt with Alan Shearer, for example, if I didn't play directly with him or against him? If you want to swap a shirt, it's got to be a direct opponent who you've just played against. But I find it a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what players do to justify it now. I'd be embarrassed. Even now, I think, you know, maybe it's just ingrained into me, but, you know, imagine finishing a game, you know, and I just can't imagine going over to, can I have your shirt? I flipping love you. What? We're even. You know what I mean? We're against each other. You're not even in my team. What want your shirt for?
Totally
in hindsight, agree. When I look back and I'm with my kids, I'm thinking, God, I wish I'd have got all these shirts because it would have been nice. However, I'd rather go and buy them for 250 quid off eBay and have them now rather than, you know, have to
ask for them,
ask for the shirts.
But I think that's the thing. Some for me, it looks premeditated. That, you know what I mean? The shirts are getting swapped as the final whistle's gone. So it's not like
you remember
that conversation's been had before the final whistle's gone. So it's like, how are you bringing up that kind of conversation? That can we swap shirts at the end? So see, they've done it on a corner. Are you not doing your job properly? Are you? For me, there's a bigger picture. It's all a
bit too laid back. I don't know if you know, James Maddison came on as sub in a Leicester game not so long ago, and he was seen to be laughing and joking with some of the players he was playing against. I can't remember the game, but he got absolutely hammered on online and places like that. Not hatred or anything like that, but just for looking like he wasn't bothered. You know, he was chatting to the opposition and that type of thing.
Well, there was a few Premier League players as well, wasn't there?
You don't chat away to players of the position like you're the mates when you're on the pitch. It was a game, I think, that Leicester kind of like lost the chance, it was an important game for them to whether they stayed, had a better chance of getting into Europe in the top four, and it was all too laughy jokey, and he got and that's the sort of thing that I don't like, and I can't understand how that goes on a lot on the pitch. How you can stand and laugh and joke with the opposition, because to me it's war when you're out there. It's like you want mates with no one.
I don't get it. But there was a video.
Pogba was switching at half time, mate, wasn't he?
Yeah, with Sammy Lesso. Yeah. Sammy and Pogba at half time. I just
in the Champions League game, that was.
Imagine the managers at half time when you're coming in. That must be.
I'm not. If I was a manager or something like that, I wouldn't play him for a few weeks. You'd have to just say, you know, if you want to do that, you know, you go and sign for him or something like that. You know, you're not playing him out if that's what you're like. You know, if you're going into your challenges hard enough, you know, if you're a soft touch like that, asking for people's shirts and being all friendly, you know, are you going in when you're on the pitch? Are you going in? Are you wanting to win the battles against your mate? What if you go head to head with him in a battle? Are you going to let him get in front of you? Yeah, you got to show that steel in every way. From the moment you arrive at the game, wherever it is, 1:30, whatever it is, until you leave that game, you've got no friends apart from your teammates.
Totally agree. And this is the thing, side for me. I'd rather, you know, I'll use it as an example. You know what I mean? One of the probably the best strikes I've seen during my time at Cardiff was Crofty's world class goal at Notts County. You know what I mean? Great strike. I'd rather swap a shirt with one of my teammates who's just done something in a game like that and get him to sign it and do it properly, because I know the hard work that someone's driven themselves to get to that point, and it's just, for me, it means more. You know what I mean? For me, I would never have felt comfortable in walking in with someone else's shirt after a defeat, and being able to justify that in front of my teammates and my players who had respect for me and I had respect for them. I wouldn't feel comfortable in doing it.
Yeah. So the answer is I do have some shirts, but I bought them all. I've got a Rooney shirt. I've got a Jeff Hurst signed shirt.
I was going to say you didn't swap with him.
I'm not quite that.
It's different, obviously, isn't it? It's different in international football. International football, it's allowed to happen. It does. It's I've got a couple of national shirts, but we didn't do it, and we weren't allowed to do it in the European Championships on the pitch. We had to do it in the changing rooms, and the players came into our changing room because it was the biggest, and we did it in there, and it was quite civilised. It was like a nice feel, and you were sat there, and we were disappointed. We'd just been knocked out the Euros, but you're swapping a shirt with the lads from Slovakia who's buzzing. He just wants an England shirt, and it's just. Yeah. It's a nice thing, but it's not when you lose. I didn't like it. I didn't really want to keep it, but you do out of respect for people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Gary Donna asked, which football team do you support, and do you still follow Cardiff?
Absolutely, yeah. I absolutely follow Cardiff. I follow all my ex teams. There's about 6. We've got 6 teams. I always check them every day. I've got them marked on my Sky. All the results come up, and Cardiff especially. But I'm actually a Derby County fan.
Yeah,
I'm from near Derby. I'm from Uttoxeter. And
boy, have I got a question for you about Derby.
I was a Rams fan from '84 when they were in the 3rd tier, and I used to go there and then eventually went round onto the pop side in the old baseball ground. And Andy, I don't know if you ever got to play
Good
there.
Ground, yeah. It was great ground.
The atmosphere was
great ground there.
I loved it, and obviously then when you start playing, you lose touch a bit with your home team. But Derby is kind of was my dad's team. It's my team. My lad now likes Derby. It's kind of like ingrained in us.
So we obviously every Cardiff fan wants to know, Gaz. Does it always snow in Derby then?
Always what?
Does it always snow in Derby?
Snow in Derby? Have I missed something?
Yeah, well, obviously
they called that game off, didn't they?
The game when Cardiff and Derby got called off, didn't it, at Pride Park? And obviously Cardiff got there. Cardiff got there, and there was no snow on the pitch, and obviously Derby called it off because they had loads of players out injured, so all the players jumped on the back of it. And I forgot about obviously that. good friend of the show is obviously Ed Dawes. Ed does a radio for Derby's live games on a weekend, and I went on live radio for Derby because of a certain tweet I put out there, which didn't go down very well, to be honest. It was a joke which backfired really badly.
Really?
And as Ed found the funny side, but every single Derby fan didn't. I'll be honest. It went down like a lead balloon. But I found
was it
funny
about
for
that game?
Yeah, yeah. But I was getting hammered for weeks and weeks, and I just thought it was funny. Thought it was hilarious.
Absolutely.
On the chin if you're a Derby fan, haven't you?
Yeah, at the minute, mate. Yeah. Especially at the minute, what's going on.
So, Gary, as a Derby fan, I wanted to ask you a question. When you signed Wayne Rooney, or should I say, like when, what was it, Bet32 signed Wayne Rooney?
Yeah,
that's not Derby County funding that at all, is it? Like, it's a way around financial fair play, surely.
Well,
how does that work?
I mean, if we know about it, everyone knows about it. So how they've got it to work is probably why they're in some difficulty now.
It's weird though, isn't it, that everybody's like in on it? Like, do you know what I mean? Like everyone seems to know, but it was just allowed to happen. I find it puzzling.
Some absolutely incredibly clever maths and financial sort of methods to make that one work, but Derby themselves couldn't have afforded someone like him, I don't think.
Would you keep him as manager now?
He had a good start, didn't he? But I don't know now. He either needs a better backroom team to back him up, because clearly he lost his way after about the first 7 or 8 games, didn't he? They looked like they kind of had a bit of impetus. They had that bounce when he came in. But then it faded away, and then they were lucky, wasn't they? Right.
How important then, Gaz, is that for him to get that experience? Because he's obviously, like you say, he started off like a house on fire. He took it like he took to water, and then all of a sudden he just dropped like a stone, and it looked like he wasn't going to get out of it. And he looked under pressure. He looked a different Wayne Rooney for me. Wayne Rooney's always been a fighter, charismatic, and he looked quiet in his interviews. He didn't look like the old Wayne Rooney for me.
Yeah, I know it. I don't know. It's obviously a step for. It's a very good step for him. I think it's a fantastic job for him to have. you don't know what constrictions he's working under when he's there. What the injury situation was and all the different aspects like that. Who was helping him coach, because he went there in as a lone man, didn't he? Has he got everyone's back? Does everyone like him? Is everyone on board? At first, everyone has to get on board, but then all of a sudden, maybe he's not coming across in the right way. He's not giving the players direction. All of a sudden, people are not sure about stuff. There's nothing worse than having 11 men on the pitch and everyone thinking, "What are we doing here? Then what did he? And the message isn't coming across." So,
do you think he needs his own players as well?
Absolutely, yeah. Now he's kept them up. In a quite by the skin of his teeth. I think he deserves one look at it. He's England's most capped player. He's got the most goals for England. Man United's top scorer. That as a player, is phenomenal. As much as there's lots of aspects not to like Wayne Rooney, there's all them things. They're not easy achievements. It's a fantastic career he's had. He's got to have something to offer the game. So he deserves a transfer window and a look at next season, at least until Christmas, I think, minimum.
Yeah,
really.
He deserves. Terry, how are you? Terry Phillips, obviously, good friend of the show. He's commented a few times. I know he's commented a few times this week on the conversations over the week. But nice to see you commenting, Terry. You just said something there, though, Gaz, about it was a worst kept secret, by the way, Wayne Rooney getting that manager's job. When Cocker was in charge, me and Si called it on the Friday night show that he was going to get the job straight away, and I felt so sorry for the manager, because it was like he was a dead man walking. They were waiting for him to lose a few games to get the sack, and you know what I mean. You on about philosophies earlier and ways of playing. They've got a Dutch legend football who likes to play out from the back. You've got Keogh trying to play out from the back who just couldn't do it. You know what I mean? You're asking a proper defender who heads it, kicks it, to try and play out into the back. He made so many errors, mistakes, and then obviously the things what happened out of his control with the car crash and stuff, which is obviously is one of those things, and it happened, unfortunately. And then for Wayne to get the job. But going back to the point of financial fair play, obviously being a Middlesbrough fan, and I see Steve Gibson's comments all the time. Steve, the chairman of Middlesbrough, is been on the Derby's hit list for a long time to say that he knew this was happening. He knew that so many irregularities must have been going on at that club for him to get him in, because he's been strict. He's stuck to the guidelines, stuck to the policy, stuck to spending, and all of a sudden he's seen Derby coming in with a signing like that, which is great for the league, by the way. It shows how strong this Premier League 2, so to speak. You know what I mean? 'Cause that's how the league is. It's not a championship; it's Premier League 2. It's massive, and that kind of signing and the kind of manager that he is, and all the other big clubs that are coming down, it shows how good it is. But for me, I hope he stays. I hope he gets another opportunity to sign his own players, to have a full season. Don't give him the sack. Don't wait. Don't press that panic button, and give him an opportunity to fulfill his potential.
I would have thought it would have happened by now anyway, if it was going to happen. If they were going to get rid of him, it would have happened now. They would have cleared the way, paid him up what they need to pay him up, and he would have been away by now, or Bet 32 would have paid him up, or however it's working. I'm not sure, but I think he will be given that opportunity. The people who are in charge, they've got to acknowledge his footballing knowledge. But I do think he's a player that's been thrust into management, and I don't know whether he saw it coming. I don't know whether he saw it as that he was going to do it. I don't know if he's got his background set up. When I was down at Ipswich, Tony Mowbray, before he took into management, was taking notes about training sessions for about 2 years before he eventually stepped up to be George Burley's number 2. And he had books and pages about methods, and he was deep into mental thinking and watched player psychology. He knew where he was going. I don't know whether nowadays you can just drop into it like Wayne Rooney has and think, I know a bit about football, I'll go into coaching, here I am, I'm Wayne Rooney. I wonder whether he had a true plan for his backroom staff. Once he dropped into that role, if he knew he had a plan, he would have knew he was going to bring him with him. He would have gone, right, okay, if I'm taking over now, I want this guy in to be my assistant. I want that guy. He should have thought it through, and he's just dropped into management on his own, and I think he's a little bit isolated, a little bit lost.
I totally agree, because there's so many people who did that, though, who studied managers. You know what I mean? That you just said there. Tony did it under George Burley, and look where Tony's gone. Jonathan Woodgate did it under Tony Pulis, and he's progressed on now from Middlesbrough to Bournemouth, and hopefully will keep progressing and move forward, because he did a great job last year. I know he didn't get to that final hurdle and get in the Premier League, but he did a great job. And yes, he might lose his job, but I'm sure another opening will come from doing a very good job this season. For me, studying's the best thing, because if you were doing your GCSEs, you study to get a better grade. If you're doing your A levels, your degree, you study to get a better grade. So it's the same as football. You know what I mean? You can't stick at a qualification and just expect to be the same as anybody else. You're on the same level. You need to get to that next level by studying better people.
It's not just about knowing what you want. It's about being able to deliver it. It's about being able to make people understand what you want when you're delivering it on a coaching field. And not everyone can do that. You know, players have been brilliant. You know that they play a great way, but they can't get it across to players. The message is blurred and it's confused and it's not consistent. And sometimes that just blows it all out of the water. Yeah. And it doesn't always happen. So it's not just about understanding the game and knowing a coaching session. It's delivering it and making people understand what you're getting at.
Yeah, I totally agree. And do you know what? I didn't know you were a Derby County fan. If I did, I'd give you loads of stick before. You can't do that, because obviously they won. Well, big hitters, aren't they? Back in the day, they won. Obviously, won the league and all sorts. So they were a big, massive club.
Well,
massive club.
That was my dad's era in the 70s, and then so he took me in the 80s, but they sunk right back down into the third tier. But when I watched them, they had Bobby Davis and Phil G, and they signed Dean Saunders, Peter Shilton, Mark Wright. You know,
Ted McMinn. Back in the used to love Ted McMinn, mate. Ted McMinn.
Tin Man. He was unbelievable. I used to love watching. His arms and legs were all over the place. But Leo Fortune West, he was like all arms and legs. He couldn't pick a ball. Honestly, Leo could not ping a ball, could he? To save his life. No. I'll tell you what, he was a right handful. Yeah. Same with Ted McMinn. He was good on that right wing, and half the time it looked like he was going to fall over. But he'd end up coming out of three players with the ball and whipping in a great ball.
Yeah, it's quality, isn't it? Yeah, it's quality. You spoke earlier on, obviously in the Magnificent Seven about. So I asked the question about hostile play. So I've just made a note here. You said obviously Millwall in the old den. Can you elaborate on your answer? Because I don't think a lot of people probably understand about that kind of play. You know, I've only played at the new den, and that intimidated me. That scared me to death, and that's people spotted around the place. When you've got the old stadiums where people can congregate together, you know what I mean, behind the goal at the side, because it's all standing, it's very different place to play. How intimidating was it for a younger player? How intimidating was it to be probably a fullback in an area where you're taking throw-ins? You know what I mean? Because as a centre forward, you can base yourself in the middle of a pitch and stay out of the areas which are causing you problems. But as a fullback, taking a throw-in, how difficult is it to be in that situation?
Well, I mean, thinking back to Millwall and the Den, you know, it started from the moment you left your hotel to go to the game. You know, there was often things thrown at buses. I've had a brick hit the window here, not smash the window, but bounce away. The security isn't like it is now. You step off the bus and there wouldn't be a line of or barriers. You'd end up pushing through people. You know, people could get at you quite easily, and it's hard to even imagine, but going in somewhere in the Championship, it was like going into a non-league ground. The stadiums were so poor and dilapidated. It was open ends, but as soon as you got to Millwall, unlike anywhere else, everything was caged. You were caged down the tunnel. The fans were kept in by huge cages with spikes everywhere you went, and it was like walking through a cage of lions, and they were all like literally, well, they are the lions, aren't they? You know, and they were like coming at the fence, shaking the fences, but it wasn't just to scare you. You looked through and you see angry youths, like, and it's not just, you know, just try to intimidate you. They were angry. They wanted to kill you. You know, it was so intimidating. And every time you went near the touchline, you got that again. And if you were coloured, you'd get the racist chance, and it wasn't even. It was almost just coming out of that, or coming into the area where it was totally unacceptable. But back then, no one really knew what to do about it, and if you were coloured, you kind of had to accept it and swallow it up. And it's crazy when you think about it now, how much it's changed, and rightly so. But back in the day,
but that's a reputation, isn't it? Mud sticks, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Unfortunately, and you see the reputation that Millwall have got, and now you see them at the new den, and they've still got that kind of reputation. And those young kids who you're talking about now, young youths, are now grown into grown men with probably good jobs, but they've still got the passion to go to football. Their kids are going to games, and it's a next generation, and it's such a listen. It's when that atmosphere is done right, it's great. It's great to play in because it gets you nervous before a game, and nerves are good. It gets you ready to go and play a game of football. But I couldn't see myself enjoying playing under that week in, week out, because if you made a bad pass, you're getting it. If you missed a shot, missed a penalty, you're getting it. You know, I listened to Teddy Sheringham. Teddy Sheringham used to say how intimidated he was as a home player, as a young player coming through. You know, I mean, he was one of their own, and it must have been so difficult for young players to play in that kind of environment, situation, because, you know, I mean, you want to instill and be a regular first team player. You want to learn the game, and how to learn in a hostile atmosphere. It must have been so difficult for young players, because
I mean,
people say Cardiff, guys. People say Cardiff is
story.
intimidating. I didn't find Cardiff half as intimidating as teams like Millwall.
No,
personally.
No. I mean, the Cardiff fans. You know, I did hear some crazy stories about Cardiff fans. I can remember we got sat on a table at a charity do, and some, you know, a regular bunch of 45, 50-year-olds all paid good money to sort of have a Cardiff City player on the table, and they were telling me about stories about crowd trouble they've been involved with. I was just literally dropped jaw, like, you did that, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, it's from that era, but that gets fed through, doesn't it, down a generation? Yeah. But it's done slightly different now. It's still there, the mob, but it's a lot more organised now. There's WhatsApp groups and proper organised events and things like that now. They probably even advertise them with some fancy advertising on Facebook, you know, to organise the fights and things that they have now. But certainly, I'm glad it's away from the stadium a bit more now. The security and the organisation that is kept away from the stadium. You still hear the anger in people's voices, but, you know, if you're a player now, it's a lot safer. And obviously, what happened through the 90s and the disasters and everything that happened has made the game safer and better for everybody, I think.
We spoke there about crowds. Obviously, we've gone through, which seems to be in a lifetime, by the way, with no fans in the stadium. How would Gary Croft have reacted to playing in front of no fans? You know, I mean, how important were fans when you played? You know, I mean, I probably compared it to coming through my younger days at Middlesbrough, playing Punters League games and with no fans in reserve games, that it didn't really matter. You know, that there's a competitive result at the end of this. You know what I mean? So players had to perform, players still had to do what they needed to do. But how important were fans to you, and would you have enjoyed playing during lockdown with no fans?
I don't think I would have enjoyed it particularly, but I'd loved competing, and that was what it was about for me, competing. It wasn't necessarily adulation. Obviously, you banging in loads of goals, you run to the fans, and it's a different experience. Me at the back, just keeping people out. I did it out of pride, and you played out of pride. We all played out of pride, but I was never going to get the glory anyway. You know, I was defending, I was keeping people out. I like doing it, but it requires unbelievable self-motivation. And, you know, I've watched Grimbsby play today and this season, and I've seen some players react really positively to it and play the normal game. And I've seen others just not interested and hiding and getting away with stuff. You know, if you walk about sometimes or don't chase back when you've got fans there, you get found out. They're on your back and you're chasing back. At Grimsby, they've had too many players this year that have just kind of hid behind that and not quite done enough. And all them little percentages and all them little untracked runs and lazy moments have reduced in a consistent stream of goals against, which have turned results against them. And I think it's hugely affected Grimsby with the type of player they had. But some players are just self-motivated. When I think back to when I got a move from Blackburn to Ipswich, I remember playing Leeds away in the reserves, and I was at the point where I played a few reserve games and I was losing the will a little bit. I knew I wasn't getting in at Blackburn. My time was up. And I can remember thinking before this Leeds game, I'm not really up for this. I didn't feel up for it, but I thought, I've got to do it. And George Burley told me when he signed for Ipswich that was the game he made up his mind about me. You know, in front of no fans, no atmosphere, no reason really to do well, every reason to be Mardy. But I did it because I was self-motivated. That got me my move. So
that's just the professional. That's the professionalism that I remember came out of you, and that's the attitude. And I refer back to me point earlier on. There's not that winning mentality. There's not that attitude, that pride. I don't see all the time. You know what I mean? Especially in 2021 in football, I see some players who. I'm so intrigued to get fans back, and we've used Mason Greenwood as an example. He's been fantastic this year. You stick 80,000 fans behind him, he makes a mistake. What will happen? Will he crumble? Will he strive and want to prove people wrong? It's going to be so different. And we have the Friday show in the Championship, and we've had a few people saying, "Oh, we feel sorry for Norwich City fans, for example, that they haven't seen the teams get promoted. I feel sorry for people like Grimsby Town fans because the season that they haven't been able to affect their team, they're going to go. The next time they're going to watch their side is going to be in the National League against, no disrespect, some lesser clubs, some non-league clubs, some clubs which, you know, I mean, there's going to be bigger budgets. It's going to be a struggle for that football club to get back to where they need to be in the short term. You know, I mean, there's some clubs in that league.
About the second tier being a second Premier. You know, that's like a fifth league now. You know, there's virtually every single team in there is a professional team, and there's up and coming, inspired chairmen who have bought smaller clubs who are throwing budgets at it. You know, people who've done well in business want their own football club. You've got
multi-millionaire actors in owning certain football clubs. So you've got when you've got people like that, you've got an opportunity to progress. And if you've got that backing, how are the South Ends? How are the Grimsbys? How are the Chesterfields, the Hartlepool, Dagenham and Redbridge, Yeovil Town? These clubs were all in the league not so long ago. You know what I mean? So and the gap is small. The chances to get up is one, and then one in the playoffs. It's minimal to get up. You know what I mean? Then you've got two teams coming down next year, so it gets stronger. It's just it gets getting harder and harder each year, all the time. And then you get a year like this year, where Sutton United go up. No one expected Sutton United to go up, so then the league's getting even harder because you've got bigger teams in it. It's going to be so difficult, and I feel sorry for football fans. You know what I mean? Who aren't getting that opportunity, and then the players. You know what I mean? Obviously, you watched Grimbsy this year. One of my questions was about a Mr. Pollock. Obviously, I know Jamie Pollock. I know Jamie really well, and obviously one of his lads has got a dream move to the Premier League. From Grimsby.
Unbelievable move.
Yeah, got a really good opportunity.
Amazing! And the thing is about it, right?
How did that come across? How did he play this year then? Did he play really well?
I think he reads the game really, really well, really well. And obviously, the big question marks was about his mobility because he looks on the face of it. Although I've never seen him with his top up, but he looks chunky. It looks like he carries a bit, but he looks reasonably mobile. But ironically, on a day when a load of teams came to watch him, he had a nightmare. But I think he knew. I think it was one of them where he knew they'd come to watch him. He kicked about 4 balls straight out of play. He got done over the top, and nothing sort of came of it. But he reads the game so well. He's on the end of everything. He can finish as well. He's a goal threat from corners and free kicks. But I would question his mobility. But because he's so young, there is still a chance you can work on that. And all I can think is that they've seen the rest of it and think they can do something about the bits that aren't quite there. Because the brain's there. The way he plays, he's quite comfortable on the ball. He wants to play out. He might be better as a part of a 3 to start with. But if they get his pace right, get his sharpness and work on all them sorts of things, his fitness, give him the proper sort of Premier League diet and all them sorts of things that can make him look even leaner and make him sharper, he could be a very good player. And obviously for 250 grand when you go in the Premier League, it's a snip, isn't it?
Yeah, totally agree.
He's got quite a lot of games
100%.
under his belt in one of his first seasons. So why not take a punt on him? He was one of Grimsby's better, but even though they conceded a lot of goals, it wasn't mainly down to him. He was playing out from the back. He looked quite comfortable, but no one wanted the ball off him.
Yeah.
When they were trying to force it, and he shouldn't have really been made to play out a lot of the times when he was. But he was always one of the better ones. He couldn't break his way back into the team at the end. He was in and out with injuries.
Yeah, I know he wasn't playing towards the end. I know he was. Yeah. What advice would you give to a player like that, Gaz? Well, obviously, I know you played for Grimsby and you moved from Grimsby to Blackburn, but you obviously were playing in a higher league when you left Grimsby. So what advice would you give to him for moving to a bigger football club?
Just become a pro, become an ultimate pro. Yeah, whatever you think you are when you're at a club like Grimsby, you're not. When you get to the Premier League, you get shocked. The step up in every manner, your approach to everything, your timing, being there on time. Doing things right, doing the warm-up right, everything is serious from start to finish. You're mixing with professional athletes. You're not coming from someone from the lower league now. You go in there and everyone about you, everyone near you is professional. They do everything right. The physios, the kit man, everything's immaculate. You've got to be, everyone's at the top of the game. Not just the players, it's the coaches, the fitness staff, the cooks, the people who clean the dressing rooms. Everyone's like, you've got to be up there, and he's got to take it all on board and change his approach. Because from when I think I became a pro footballer when I went to Blackburn and I was 22. That's when I think I became a truly professional footballer. When I considered everything, I had to look back at myself and think, flipping hell, you need to improve. I joined the Premier League champions at the time. The standard was like, I just thought I'm going to last less than a year here unless I pull my finger out. and get my head on and get focused. I changed
Well,
my whole mentality.
It's the intensity, isn't it? It's the intensity side for me. It's the intensity across the board, training, games, attitude. It's a different world.
Switch off. You can't have a lazy day. You can't have a slack session. You've got to be about your business every single day. And what drove it home for me was one time where we had a session towards the end of the season after they won the Premier League, and you get two captains. You pick sides. I was like second to last pick, along with the keeper, and I thought, right, that's just told me something, because you're not retaining possession. If no one wants you in your possession side, and I thought, I don't want to be that guy. I've never been that guy ever in my life. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, I'm second to last pick. I'm like, right. And I just went out, and I was every day after training, doing everything, passing, just so I didn't need to look down at my feet when I got the ball. My head was always up. I could see the next pass. I was thinking. I knew where to shift the ball as someone was approaching without looking down. Just because if you think you've made it, you haven't. And that's with anything, I think. Anything in football is, as soon as you think you've made it, you never make any progress. You never go to the
stop trying to evolve then, don't you? Once you think you've made it.
You're only as good as your last game, aren't you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just with that, Gaz, I wanted to ask you about the kind of mental side of it, in terms of when you're a very young player and you do make that, if you make a big move and you go up, you don't just go up a level, you go up a few levels and a few leagues. Like, how difficult is that, not just to adapt physically, like you said, you're training with full-time professional athletes, etc., but also the mental side of that as a very young footballer. You've got to have your head right, haven't you, and be able to cope with that pressure that's in the day-to-day, let alone when the fans come along and games start.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way I was lucky. I went to Blackburn, they had Graham Lasso as left back, and I kind of went as an understudy. It was a move I couldn't refuse. I didn't really want to go somewhere and be an understudy, but that I had time to kind of settle in. I think if I'd have been thrown straight into the first team, it could have been dangerous for me. I don't think I was ready. They could have thought, they got here, and my confidence could have suffered, but I was able to go in and finish the season just on the bench, gathering the experience. I mean, 22, you're not young, but they didn't chuck me straight in. And then I had the next season then to kind of gain more experience, played a few games, brought me in. I was moving up to the levels that was expected of me. And I could feel myself getting better and more confident with it. So I think it was done right. Blackburn at the time, believe it or not, and people who were younger than us probably won't realise, Blackburn were the top side in the country, alongside Man United. And, everything was done right. And they had such a huge squad. Players were brought through in the right manner, even when they were bought in for money. If you weren't ready, you were brought in and they managed you. There's the different tiers of staff: a reserve, assistant coach, manager, head of football, and all them different people. There's lots of help along the way at that club. So,
great honesty, though. It's so intriguing, so interesting. You know what I mean? That you say that you went to a club and you didn't think you were ready. You became a pro at 22. You know what I mean? Because you're on about a club that you started out at Grimbsy Town. You played over 170 games for a football club. That, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you leave there to become a player. You know what I mean? That I think players think they get in the first team, they become a player straight away. And I think that's the dangers that they've got, because your last game could be your last game in football. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how old you are, on ability, on injury, etc. It's just it's dangerous. And obviously you were brought up with I'll call him an old guard. You know what I mean? The couple of lads that I know, I'm sure that you played with at Grimsby. You've got Steve Livingston, John McDermott. You know what I mean? Those two alone, who obviously brought up in the northeast. I know Steve lives in Middlesbrough still, and hard players. You know what I mean? Help young players. Want young players to do well.
I've seen where Macca used to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool was tough. Yeah, Liverpool, another tough player. If you had something to say to him, he wouldn't mess about. You know that about him. Macca's the nicest lad ever to come out of Middlesbrough. I think he wouldn't harm a fly, Macca, but great player. They're from the old school. Like us, I was speaking to Livo actually. There's a reunion down here of old players, Grimsby players, and Livo's in a WhatsApp group, can't shut him up. took over the WhatsApp group.
His lad's a centre forward like his dad. Well, not like his dad. Right. His Jed's a proper goal scorer. Got pace, and obviously you can tell he's been brought up watching his dad. He plays like semi-pro football in the area. Very good lad. Very good player.
Yeah. Well, he didn't put his anything about. He was a real tough character. So I might get to play with him. He's going to pull his shirt on apparently.
I wouldn't like to play against him again. No. You know what I mean? Even if it's one last game, that would be a tough afternoon for somebody. Good lads though. Great. And football needs those kind of characters. You know what I mean? Those kind of lads made football. They made Grimsby. They made other teams they played for. You know what I mean? And they're very well known because of what they gave to football. You know what I mean? That John was the captain, I believe. He took free kicks. He scored goals. He was a born winner. You know what I mean? I know he's got a good affiliation with Boston as well. So it's these kind of players that they're the good guys of football, and they never get the recognition sometimes what they deserve because they played in an era which was quieter than it is now.
Yeah. I mean, I every team that I played at, and I'm quite lucky really because I'd say Grimbsy was a successful team. Blackburn were qualified for Europe twice while I was there, and then when I went to Ipswich, we got promoted, finished 5th in the league. Cardiff, we got promoted. Back to Grimsby, we had a playoff final. I've been quite lucky, and all the things in common that these teams had was good individuals, good people, but winners. Like good characters, just inclusive, nice people, and where it's always fallen down is when the wrong characters have been brought into the dressing room. So a part of a manager's job is not only to pick good players but pick good characters.
Yeah, totally agree.
To create that winning environment, because one or two people can come in and spoil it. When we were at Ipswich and we finished 5th in the Premier League after getting promoted, George Burley brought in a few foreigners on big money. They didn't mix, didn't want to be part of it, and it all started to fall apart. And it was one of the big problems then. And that next season, from finishing 5th, they went down. The turnaround was phenomenal. The people on all of a sudden, all the, which was pretty much a British-based squad. And obviously, I don't care where players from. But Herman Ryderson, who was a foreigner who came into Ipswich, brilliant character. So it's not just anything against foreigners, but he brought in a load of people, and you had all the English guys on, a decent wage, but then you got these foreigners coming in on 30, 40k at the time, which isn't probably that much now, but it changed things, changed the whole setup, and the whole thing fell apart.
Yeah, it evolves, doesn't it? And you see times like that, you see clubs who try to push to another level. It doesn't always work, and it's getting that camaraderie in the dressing room. It's getting players manage dressing rooms. I don't get. What I mean? We had players in our dressing room who managed it in our time at Cardiff. You'll have been at every club that you played at. You've got players who just manage it for the manager. You don't need a manager coming in with an iron fist. Lenny was never in there shouting and screaming. He had players who, the Willies, the Cavs, the Spencer Pryors, the lads who manage people, the lads who manage a changing room, the lads who the fans knew that we knew exactly what we needed to do. We was just getting to that level where we could do it. You spoke about the disappointment we had in the playoff semi-final. And I think that made us strive on to do more and to want to get to the next level because, I don't know about you, and I talked openly about it. The hurt that I drove home after that game, drove straight back to Middlesbrough after that game against Stoke City, and that was the longest drive I've had in my life. I must have stopped about 10, 15 times, and I probably didn't stop thinking about that game till about 3 or 4 days later, in terms of what I could have done more myself personally, and how much I'd let everybody down, and then I just thought, what can I do about it? Changing things, wanting to score the first goal in the season, the season after, wanting to get promoted, wanting to win, pick a trophy up, and it's just things that drive you on. But seeing other people, seeing the playoffs last weekend, it just fills you full of pride that I got the opportunity to live the dream and do that for our football club.
How do you? Obviously, this isn't the right way around, maybe. But how do you remember that, Andy? The goal. You've probably been asked a million times, but what a moment to finish. In all fairness, Andy, I tell you how I remember it, because I think at the time so much was expected from you when you were at Cardiff that some people felt like you hadn't fulfilled your potential, perhaps, because you came. Yeah. Did you come for quite a lot of money, didn't you?
I came for £1 million, yeah.
£1 million, didn't you? And I think everyone wanted a little bit more from you. And that was your moment, wasn't it? That was the moment you kind of repaid every penny and more.
Yeah, I think. Listen, I think that I loved my time there. I started off really well, and I was loving my football. And then all of a sudden, Ernie came in and took my mantle and he scored goals. Couldn't bring him out. And when you've got a player who's scoring 30, 35, 40 goals in a season, how do you compete with it? You know what I mean? Me and him were too similar. We couldn't play together. Which Thorny was a player who we the Holy Grail. We wanted to play with Thorny. Even Leo, you know what I mean? And because everybody knew you play up front with Peter Thorny, you're going to get goals because Thorny's link-up play, Thorny dominating defenders, centre halves. It was absolutely fantastic, and it was great to play alongside someone like that. It made my job a lot easy, which is great. Go on, Si. I feel guilty now. You just put that on.
It's funny. I've been listening to you two whilst reading all the chat, and it's really quite funny. But mate. Look, I'm just here to guide the stuff and give my views now and again. I could sit here all day and just got a front row seat listening to you two knowledgeable chaps talking football. One thing I did want to talk to you, Gary, or ask you about is there was talk of you doing a little soiree into acting with the British horror film Dead Lies, but I can't find anything further about it other than just before it was due to come out. So sort of tell us a bit about that.
Well, it was a Grimsby fan, Gary Spate, who's did a fan-funded. I think he was doing like 24 hours without eating and all these things to fund this film. And he asked me for some funding, and I think I kind of cracked a joke to say, you're going to put me in it. And within a couple of weeks, he'd given me a part in it, and there was various famous people were going to contribute musically and actor-wise that he'd recruited. And then it all just fell away. I don't really know what happened with him, to be honest. I didn't get my money back. But
did you ever record any of it or do anything with it?
Script through. I read the scripts and kind of got the first scene and got a general gist for the whole film. He'd written it himself. I don't think he's gone on and done it since. I don't know what. Was it a good script? Good story? Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, it sounded quite. Pass it over, and we'll release it. And Ace Podcast Nation, I'd love that. Ace Podcast Nation Media. I was the bad guy. I'll tell you what I have done acting-wise. If you go on the internet, there's a big problem around Grimsby on a serious note. That's about child corruption and child, not necessarily abuse, but getting kids into criminal organisations. Okay. And I went with my son, who's gone away to acting college, for an audition for this film that was going. I didn't know what it was, so I turned up with him, and he was waiting. There was hundreds of people about, and I saw this person, and I said, "What is this tonight?" I said, "My ex-wife's told me to bring Oliver. What's going on?" She went, "Oh, it's for this thing for criminal kids and all that." And she said, "You should go in and have a go." I went, "I don't know what's going on here." She went, "Just go in and have an interview." I went, "So is it like a casting?" She said, "Yeah, just go in." And I went, No. Anyway, I sat down, waited half an hour. She said, go on. I went, flipping sod it. In I went, sat there in front of this guy. He's going, asking me loads of big questions like, well, what's your favourite film? What's the last film you watched? I think I'd watched something like Tangled. And I went, oh, Tangled. And he's like, looking at me, gone out as if to say, answer, mate. But anyway, it turns out he called me back in for a casting. So I get a call through the office on Thursday, and he's like, it's whatever his name was. He said, I just want to let you know about Oliver. I went, okay. He says, unfortunately, he didn't make it. I went, no, that's not me. He said, but we want you to come back. I was like, I felt so guilty. They called me back, and I filmed the film, and it's used all around in schools now. I was this lead character, and I was the head drug guy. It's about drugs, and it's called Alfie's Story. And
you have to find that.
I'm watching that.
You gotta watch it.
Should we do a watch along now?
So it was not just it was filmed. We didn't have a script, but it was narrated over by the young lad because it was his story.
What was it called? Alfie's
Story.
There's a 1, 2, and a 3, I think. I had to skip the second one where I get arrested. I was quite good at that bit.
Interesting.
I've got it here. I've got it on here. Yeah, I've got it here. Look, Alfie's Story.
That's the one, yeah. So I do that, and that was really quite a nice thing to be part of, actually, because it's actually won an award. It's actually won an award for the help it's given to young kids and helping young kids to recognise when they're being groomed for this type of organisation, and they can seek help, and they're shown this at school so they can understand what's going on. It's a huge problem in the area. So that was quite nice to be part of. So that is
well done. That's. I wasn't expecting that answer when that question came out. So quality, that's
incredible.
Another. Yeah. That's two things I've learned tonight. That's amazing.
I'm just trying to skip. I'm trying to skip through to find Gary's bit so I can put it up on the screen. But just bear with me a second. So we have got. I saved up a few Euros questions from earlier in the show, but before that, Gavin asked a few questions. He said, Gary, what was the most memorable game or part of your career?
I think it was probably obviously I love the Cardiff promotion in Cardiff. That was the dream scenario for everybody when we won that game. But when I went to Ipswich and I'd had a bad year through other off-field things, we went to Wembley and we beat Barnsley in the playoff final, and it was just such an epic tale, because Ipswich had been in the playoffs 3 years on the trot and lost in the semi-finals, and this was I think it was the fourth year, or it was definitely the third year for sure, that we'd gone into the playoffs. We drew 2-2 away at Bolton, having been 2-0 down. We then brought them back to our place, and we were 1-0 down, 2-1 down. Yeah, that's it. That's after I've been arrested.
Gary, I apologise to the audio viewers. I can't play this for too long because it's obviously someone else's thing, and it's not a done thing to play someone else's content on your YouTube channel to get clout. But this is Gary Croft acting in prison by the looks of it. Wow, look at that.
I like it.
I'm just in a holding cell actually there.
Yeah, there you go. Shocking. And just for anyone who's just joining, yeah. So there's like about 30 or 40 people just joined on YouTube.
Part one was the one where I was doing most of my dealings. In that, you see me giving kids money, drugs, and stuff to carry, and it tells a very, very powerful story. Actually, it's good. It was good fun. When I turned up to this thing, when they called me up to this thing, when they said I'd got the part, I turned up and there was a circle of chairs, and I was like, "What the heck's going on here?" So I sat down, and he went, we're just doing a few scenes, and I'm thinking, I ain't even seen a script yet. Well, what do you mean doing a few scenes? So it's about 30 people. They went, right, Gary, we want you to go up and with Alfie and pretend to give him some new trainers for doing you a favour. I went, who am I? He went, what part am I? He went, oh, Dave, you're the gun lead. I went, where's my script? And he went, oh, no, there's no script. You've just got to ad hoc it. Well, listen, coming from work with my shirt and tie, I had to go to the front of the stage and do this with Alfie, like make it up. And I was like, what the? Anyway, I thought, flipping, I got through that. My heart was racing. It was like playing a game. My heart was racing. I was panicking. The next thing they went, right, hold on, stay there, Gary. We've got another 4 Alfies. I went, what? So I had to do the same part 4 times because they were choosing which Alfie to choose. And, it was the strangest experiences. I like putting myself out there, out of my comfort zone, though, so it was good fun.
Can't fault you. Absolutely right. Let's finish off with these questions, which I saved from earlier. These are kind of for both of you, but we'll go to Gary first. First and foremost, I apologise to the people because I didn't make a note of the name who asked the questions. Someone asked, who do you think is going to be the Golden Boot winner in the Euros?
I will go Mbappe.
What about you, Ant?
That'll be my choice.
I'll go someone different then. I'll go Immobile from Italy.
And I will go with Kiefer Moore on the condition that Wales get out the group stage. If Wales get out the group stage, Kiefer Moore will be the Golden Boot winner.
If Kiefer Moore wins the Golden Boot, he will leave Cardiff City in the summer.
Well, that's guaranteed. He's going to leave Cardiff anyway, mate. Let's be honest.
He wants.
On Kiefer Moore, Jack asked, Kiefer Moore seemingly has been disregarded completely by Robert Page or Ryan Giggs.
He's not going to finish top goal scorer then, is he?
Whoever's picked the side, well, hopefully they're going to sort out the bloody formation. I'm not going on that boat again. But it's weird because he's done so well for Wales. He's done so well for Cardiff. I saw someone say Mick McCarthy refused to rest him, and now Robert Page will only rest him. It must be difficult for him to understand. But I guess Jack just wanted your thoughts on that, because obviously he's coming off the back of a great season.
Well, obviously, I've seen firsthand of him. I know his talents. I know how good he is. Does he suit the way that Wales are playing? Probably not. You know, the way that Cardiff play it with strengths.
Can I ask you a quick question on that, Andy?
Yeah,
I'm really sorry to interrupt you. So, on that, I believe that when they play the false nine, they will play either probably Harry Wilson as the false nine or Ramsey. I actually believe that if they play Kiefer Moore up front with Ramsey, Bale, and Daniel James behind, that suits all of those players better than if you take Kiefer Moore out of there and you play a false nine.
I totally agree. Listen, I totally agree, because you're gonna get your best out of Daniel James. You're gonna get your best out of Harry Wilson. You're gonna get your best out of Ramsey, Gareth Bale, by playing a focal point up front, because it takes the pressure off those guys. But the problem you've got is he's playing the false nine. So if you've got a false nine, Kiefer Moore doesn't fit in the false nine, because Kiefer Moore is a number 9. He's an old school number 9 centre forward, target man with a good touch, with a bit of pace behind him, and scores goals. But is he going down the route of playing a false 9 for the last 20-30 minutes? If you need a player to go up, he'll put him up. I don't know. Listen, Page is a good enough coach and understands the squad and the players well enough now to pick his best side and the team that he thinks is going to win. You know what I mean? For me, same thing with England. I've got faith in the manager. You know, I'm not Welsh. I want Wales to do well. Will he pick his best side to win these games in Baku and wherever else they're playing? Of course he will. You know what I mean? They're going to have some tough games to play in Italy. He's going to have different tactics for all three. But I'm sure he'll get the results he needs.
Guys, is it possible Robert Page is playing with that false 9 formation again, with the plan not necessarily being that that's going to be the first choice tactics, but if Wales do need to change it up against certain teams or at certain points in the game, they can revert to that, and it's not a complete shock to the system for what is predominantly quite a young squad?
Yeah, I think he'll have 2 different ways of playing, but he might just be throwing everyone a big curveball about how he's going to play. He might just switch it all back round. For me, it's centre forward you need in every team. I don't like this false 9. I think it's a bit too deliberate. You know, I think, and it's too structured. You need teams. You need someone stretching teams out, making space for them clever players, which they've got in abundance, really, Wales, to sort of play in them holes, players who can get turned on the ball. You need someone taking players away to create that space. So, for me, I'd play him and play the formation you said, actually. I think that the 3 in there behind them is the way forward. They've got some fantastic attacking players, and he makes room for them all. He creates space for them all as a sort of man up there leading the line.
And I think they've got some decent sort of holding midfielders to play just behind as well. Certainly good enough to protect the defence while those other players,
the first game's key side for me, because the Italy game is going to be the toughest one. So the first game's key. The first game is, for me, if you win the first game, you qualify. You know what I mean? Because you're putting that much pressure on everybody else. But the first game, it's about getting your tactics right and spot on for the first game. Because if you lose the first game and you decide to put in a different formation, players, tactics for the second game, then it just looks so confusing for the fans. And then the third game, you're doing the same thing again. You could go through playing 3 different tactics, 3 different formations, 3 different sets of players, and losing 3 games very easily in the Euros. Hopefully it doesn't go that way, by the way.
100%.
I mean, for me, I'm surprised at Pagey. You know, he's fairly old school, isn't he? Which means, you can teach an old dog new tricks. But I would have thought he's a guy who likes a number 9. You know, he would have played in the team every week.
I totally agree.
So, for him to try and tinker with that and you know, it not working, he's got to see that that's not working for Wales. He's got to have another plan, and maybe he's just making sure he's got that centre forward rested, and he's going to be fit for that first game with these other games, the other formations he's playing at the moment.
As a defender, like he is, like Pagey was, the way that he played, Pagey would have hated to play against someone like Kiefer. You know what I mean? Because he was big, strong, has a good touch, can run in behind, can hold the ball up, and then you've got runners behind. So for me, I think personally he's missing a trick. But listen, I'm not the Wales manager.
The other way around, Pagey isn't the guy who gets the ball at the back and threads balls through into people's feet either, really, is he? He wasn't. He wasn't a bad footballer, but he wasn't the sort of person who pings things in and played like that either. So picking people out in holes isn't his sort of thing. Sometimes when you look up as a centre half under pressure, you need to see someone going.
Yeah, totally agree.
Spot on. Okay, so then we've also got someone asked us all to pick the an outsider to reach the final, not necessarily win the tournament, outside of the big boys.
I didn't hear that. It broke up then. You have to.
Sorry. So basically, they want us to pick an outsider for to reach the final, not necessarily win it, outside of the big boys. So,
I'll go first, and I'm happy to go first, and I will go. I'll go Poland.
It's a good shout, I think. I'm going to go.
How far down the list are we allowed? Do we have to go before we pick?
Well, outside of your Hollands, your Italys, your Frances,
you know
your
what?
Englands,
I'm
Portugal.
such a loyal sort of person. I'm going to go with Wales because I just think they could be a good tournament team.
What I would say about that, Gary, is if I don't think it's being unrealistic to say if Aaron Ramsey wasn't suspended, there's a good chance that Wales would have reached the final in the last Euros.
You know what? I'm absolutely bang on there with you. You almost felt when he got suspended in that semi.
You could feel the air sucked out of it, couldn't you?
Yeah, for the semi rather. When he got suspended for the semi, you just felt like there was nothing after. He was the kingpin. He was playing so well, and everything, the problems he was causing, was brilliant for Wales at the time. It could have got him through. I truly believe that, and you probably don't want to think of it like that because it will stick in the throat forever. But I really do think if he'd have been fit, they could have easily got to that final. Easy.
He's getting a bit emotional. Sar's getting a bit emotional now. And, the Euro show is going to be exhilarating. It's going to be exciting with the amount of Welsh pundits on. We should be getting a good broad,
got another one. I spoke to another one yesterday who's all in. So we're building a nice little team of Euro people. So the final question: who do you think will be the player of the tournament?
Well, I'm going to go Mbappe again. I just think it's his time. I think he's fit and he's ready. He's hungry. It's the stage. If I was him, he's been on the periphery of great things for so long, and he hasn't stepped up and grabbed a tournament, owned anything yet. I think as a young man now, this could be his tournament. I think he could really show us what he's got. If I was him and I was at age, I feel like he's coming of age. The fronts team's going to provide him with all the ball and all the chances he needs. I think it could be a chance for him to really sort of stand out.
Good shout. And
I'm going England. I'm going England. I want to be excited. I'm going Phil Foden. Phil's going to be the new Gaza, and he's going to really excite me in all three games. He's going to score a worldie against Scotland. He's going to flick the ball over Colin Hendry's head, and he's going to score a worldie.
There we go. How about that?
They were the memories, weren't they? I mean, that tournament. We can look back to so many England nearly things, can't we? Yeah. Wales have had that one, but we go back to that Euro. I mean, how many penalty shootouts have we suffered under? When they went out in the semi of the last World Cup, it didn't hurt me as much as previous games because I didn't think England probably played that well. I didn't think England deserved to be where they were.
I think that's fair enough.
It hurt me more in the other ones where they'd done well, where they really had a good team that had done well and performed throughout the tournament. It would have been worthy. I felt we scraped our way through that tournament to where we were. We had the luckiest draw ever with the teams we kept getting landed with, and we still couldn't make it to the final.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's certain moments, isn't there? There's certain moments in games. You look at Euro '96 when Gaza nearly scored against Germany when he was probably a stud away from scoring, and the penalty shootout, and there's the moments before that are probably pivotal moments which I thought we might have gone over the line quicker or easier to get towards a World Cup or a World Cup final or European Championships final. But yeah, I'm the same as you. It still hurt, but I wasn't as disappointed as I have been in previous years. But my expectations this year, with some of the tournament being in England at Wembley, I think we've got we've got just as a good chance as anyone else has got to progress through.
Yeah.
I think the player of the tournament will be Paul Pogba. I think he's going to prove a point to the world. I think he's the sort of player who, on that big stage, could turn up and really actually show what he can do. Because no one doubts his talent, unless you're Gavin. But it's just him doing it consistently.
The thing is with Paul Pogba, he's one of them people that has made people dislike him. Just because of his attitude, and for that reason, I don't want him to do well. I don't want him to because he just looks cocky. He looks arrogant.
Oh, that's what I was going to
endear himself to the fans. As much as I saw an interview with him, which I thought actually you sound a lot better than you've ever sounded. He might be maturing, but he's still got an attitude, and I think he still decides when he's going to do it. He don't do it every time. I don't think he's 100% all the time, and I don't like that about players. So I don't like that about him.
But in the French team, though, he's got that.
Yeah, he's round his friends as well, isn't he?
He's got that protection of Kante, because anybody with Kante, how can you fall off? You know what I mean? If you've got Kante doing all your running for you, you can just do what you want. He can stroll around. Yeah, but then if he's strolling around,
player, isn't he, Kante?
If you're strolling around, somebody else can take your place, because he's got better players to take his place there than he has at United. So I think he might not play as much time as he believes if he doesn't turn up, like Gaz says.
So on a serious note, my golden boot prediction is Haaland of Denmark. My outsider to reach the final is Denmark, and I think the player of the tournament will be possibly Paul Pogba. Antoine Griezmann is an interesting one. Someone just put it in the chat. And the thing with him is he's had a terrible season, but before he went to Barcelona was being touted as the next sort of big hitter in the world of football. So it'll be interesting what sort of tournament he has. Holgate, that makes a great point. Outsider for player of the tournament, Memphis Depay. I think that's a good shout. Obviously, Kante got a good chance.
So on your point of top goal scorer being Haaland, can Leslie confirm if Haaland's out of John Stones' pocket yet? Because obviously, with the 2 games he played in the Champions League, he was very poor, wasn't he? So
no, mate, I'm not even starting the John Stones conversation after that Champions League final. But I think Denmark. James Costley's actually just said the same. I see there. Like Denmark got Haaland and Christian Eriksen and a couple of other good young players. I want to finish the show by saying Phil Foden, fantastic footballer, but as I just don't get the hype of him being like the next world beater. I think Jack Grealish potentially has got the potential to be much better. But for some reason, I don't know whether it's because he plays for Man City or he has done it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's a bad footballer by any stretch. I just don't think, you just compared him to Gaza. I
didn't compare him to Gaza. I called him.
Oh, you think he could be the next Gaza?
Yeah,
but I think Grealish.
Compared. Nobody can compare with Gaza. Jack Grealish is no one's Paul Gascoigne.
But Grealish is doing it with a lesser team. And still performing.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to get himself a.
Oh, Gary's frozen up, I think. Right, we'll give him a second and see if he comes back. Are you still there, mate?
I'm still there, yeah.
But just while we wait for Gary to come up, I'll do some housekeeping quickly. So yesterday we dropped the finale of My Story with actor Eddie Webber, as I mentioned a bit earlier. With someone commented on it was a really good show, really good series. Actually, some really interesting stories, and the first series was good as well. We will be back with series 3, most likely after the Euros. But you can look out for over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be dropping some teasers about various things. So have a look. It's going to be predominantly Instagram stuff, that is. But have a little look and play the game. See if you can guess what's coming. But also, we have got, of course, our first Euro show coming on Friday. 7 till 8 o'clock. Do not miss it. Spread the word. Tell your friends. Tell the people. There is a lot of people watching on YouTube at the moment. It is unreal. So hopefully all those people will be back for the Euros. And as usual, please subscribe to youtube.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation. Please follow Twitter, Facebook, all the good stuff. Tell your friends. We'll be back after the Euros with more guests galore. We've got some guests during the Euro, some guest analysts. Obviously, we've already announced David Giles. We already have someone else. Do we say it, Andy, or do you want to wait? The one that I spoke to the other day.
We'll announce on Friday. I'll let you announce it on Friday because it's all your
why
good
not?
work. Yeah.
There you go. Ryan just saying there, 105 people watching on YouTube alone. There we go. Love it. Gary Croft, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely amazing.
Thanks, guys.
Superstar. Yeah, well, it's a standard thing with every Cardiff fan, though, isn't it? So every Cardiff player, guys, we always finish with the Ayatollah. So we're gonna go after 3.
Absolutely. Yeah, let me just hang on. Let me take the comments off. They won't go. All right, hang on. There's too many coming through.
Ready?
Go on.
3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Love it, guys.
There we go. Great way to finish.
Indeed.
Guys, thanks for your time, mate. Absolutely
phenomenal.
All the best, guys.
Feedback's been amazing.
Big up.
Cheers, it's been great. Cheers, Gary. Cheers, Andy. Cheers people. Everybody. Thank you. Audio version will be out tomorrow. See you Friday, 7 o'clock.